If I could get the student body treasurer candidates to the front, we'll get you seated. Yes. So you will come off our candidate C. So you're going closest to me here.
I'm gonna go test it. Will you just say something?
Yeah. So am I going
Oh, I can hear it.
Can you hear me talk?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So am I going third then?
Makia,
perfect.
Makia, you're farthest from me. And then Alina's in the middle.
Best of luck, guys. Best of luck, and nice meeting you. Y'all are extremely smart.
Where's Isaac?
Cheers, go.
Can you give one to Isaac and then look, you can keep the other.
Yeah, quiet. No, that was good.
It was my first year campaign, so I just posted right here.
Are you what?
Allowed to write it.
Yeah, you can write. Thank you.
There's a deco.
This feels like a disadvantage. This is not good for lesbians, right?
Yeah. I can wait.
I'm gonna show you what this is.
All right, if everyone could go ahead and take their seats, we're going to get started in just a minute, right at 6:30. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Adenucci, and I serve as the chair of NC State Student Government's Board of Elections. On behalf of the Board of Elections, thank you for joining us tonight in the governance chambers for the Spring 2026 Student Body Officer Debate. The Board of Elections is an independent body charged with administering student government elections. Our responsibility is to ensure a fair, orderly, and transparent process for candidates and voters alike. We do not endorse candidates, and we do not advocate for any campaign. Our role is to uphold the integrity of the election, and tonight's debate is part of that responsibility. Over the next 2.5 hours, you'll hear directly from candidates for Student Body Treasurer, Student Senate President, and Student Body President and Vice President. The purpose of tonight is simple: to give candidates a structured opportunity to articulate their vision, demonstrate their understanding of their respective offices, and respond to substantive governance questions. We expect professionalism from candidates, audience members, and campaign teams alike. Voting will take place next Monday and Tuesday, March 9th and 10th, and you can vote online at go.ncsu.edu/votesg. We're very fortunate to have an exceptional panel of moderators with us tonight. First, Dr. Amanda Ross Edwards is a teaching associate professor in the School of Public and International Affairs and serves as the director of the Leadership in the Public Sector online bachelor's degree completion program. She joined the SPIA faculty in 2004 and teaches courses in law, justice, Leadership, Gender and Politics in American Government. Her work centers on governance, civic leadership, and public institutions. Dr. Edward Funkhauser was a faculty member in NC State's Department of Communication from 1977 to 2017. During his 40-year career, he also served in several administrative roles, including Associate Dean for Academic Affairs in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. He taught many things to many students over many years and brings decades of experience in public discourse and institutional leadership. Emily Robinson is a third-year PhD student in the Department of Public Administration. She earned her bachelor's degree in policy studies from Elon University and her Master of Public Administration from NC State. Her research focuses on policy diffusion and the mechanisms through which public policies spread. She plans to graduate in May 2027 and pursue a career as a professor. Each debate segment will be moderated by members of this panel. They will ask the questions, manage follow-ups, and manage the structure of the discussion. Thank you all for being here. Tonight's timekeeping will be handled by Emily Saylor, the Assistant Director of Student Leadership and Engagement, and Harrison Andrews, our Graduate Assistant in Student Leadership and Engagement. They will provide a 15-second warning by raising an orange card, and when time expires, they will raise a red card and they will say time's up. At that moment, candidates must stop speaking immediately. Candidates will not be permitted to finish their sentences, and microphones will be muted if you continue speaking. Time limits will be enforced strictly to enforce fairness across all candidates. If a candidate needs clarification, you may ask for a question to be repeated. Please do so promptly so we can remain on schedule. Candidates, please ensure that you're speaking directly into the microphone when recognized. Microphones should only be turned on when you're speaking. And because microphones are being muted throughout the debate, please ensure your microphone is turned on before speaking. Each race tonight will follow the same general structure with opening statements, core questions with structured rebuttals and moderator follow-ups, a lightning round, and closing statements. Candidates will only speak when recognized by the moderator. Rebuttals must address policy and governance, not personalities. Audience members are asked to hold applause until the conclusion of each race's debate segment. We will begin this evening with the candidates for Student Body Treasurer. Thank you all for being here and participating in this important part of our democratic process. With that, I'll pass it to our moderators.
Thank you, Joseph. Good evening, candidates. Earlier, each candidate selected a number between 0 and 100. Those selections were used to determine the speaking order for this segment. As outlined, 2-minute opening statements, 3 core questions, 90 seconds per response, 60-second rebuttals, 1 directed 1-minute moderator follow-up per core question, a lightning round with 4 to 6 questions, 20 seconds per response, and then 1-minute closing statements. Let us begin with opening statements. Makia Hedgepeth, you may begin. You have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Makia Hedgepeth. I'm a third year studying political science, and I'm running to be your student body treasurer for the 106th session of student government. I've been a person in government since I was a freshman. I've served as a department member, banquet chair, and the director of athletics. I sit on the University Council of Athletics, so I have experience working with university faculty and administration. And I ask that as you guys sit here tonight, you guys make a good choice in choosing who you want to represent you next session.
Sorry, Alina Kolu, you have 2 minutes.
Other button.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you all tonight. My name is Alina Kalu, and I'm running to be your next student body treasurer. Coming into student government, I joined as a first-year senator. I now serve as a College of Engineering senator, chair of tuition and fees, and vice chair of finance committee. Through these roles, I've been able to see how the impact of student government to the student body, as well as how we're able to help support our student clubs and organizations through the appropriations process and financial grants. That energy really does motivate me to give back to the Treasury branch as serving as student body treasurer. My promise to you all is to be a friend who listens and a leader who acts. Listening gives us perspective, and action gives us results. Our students deserve both. I hope to treat your student fees as what they truly are. They're investments in our community, in our opportunities, and in our memories. Let's make student fees work for you. Let's get our ducks in a row together. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pranav Aki, and I'd like to introduce myself. I want to start by beginning to thank the Board of Elections for conducting a smooth and successful election campaign, and I hope that everything goes well as planned. I look forward to having a smooth and successful election process. I would like to begin by sharing my personal experiences. They draw me to NC State. As soon as I entered, I engaged myself with various clubs, leading to the NC State Engagement and Outreach Council as a board member, 180 Degrees Consulting, and Navarasa. And through these experiences, I've learned the one thing, that NC State is behind, that students do not have the tools and resources necessary to learn how to engage properly through the appropriations process. Organizations don't have the tools and resources necessary to grow and get tapped into unlimited sources of external funding. They're limited by our internal sources of funding, and both students and student organizations do not have access to guidance that will set them up for financial success. As student body treasurer, I will collaborate across NC State student government to educate, empower, and equip students and student organizations. And I look forward to transforming the Treasury branch from just a source of funding to a financial advisor that guides along every single student and organization, regardless of what step of the process they are in. And all of that without raising a single cent in student fees. So I look forward to this debate, and I encourage everyone to bank on Aki, to bank on NC State.
We will now move to our first core question.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. Our first core question concerns the treasurer's role as chair of the Appropriations Council. The treasurer serves as the ex officio chair of the Appropriations Council, which deliberates and recommends allocations before the Senate considers the appropriations bill. So here is the question. As chair, you will shape the process before the Senate ever sees the bill. How do you prevent subtle steering of outcomes while still leading decisively and settling policy directions? Makia, you have 90 seconds. You may begin when ready.
Hi, yes. So before we even get to deliberations, where we first start is our interview process and our marketing outreach for interviews and appropriations, right? So it all starts with that firsthand communication. So first things first, improving communication with that, and then making sure that our treasurers are trained and are equipped with the tools and skills they need to help our different orgs when they come asking us for funding. And so when it comes time for deliberation, I know this is a very hard thing to do because we're all born to be naturally biased, but it is in the best interest of these student orgs that come to us to make sure that we put our biases aside, that we put our thoughts about what they do or don't do aside, and make sure that they are getting a bang for their buck. Essentially, they're paying currently $14.20 into student government, right? So they deserve to see where that money is going, and they deserve to use it the best way they can.
Alina, you have 90 seconds.
All right. Thank you for the question. So in terms of maintaining a sound mindset when it comes to chairing appropriations and informing the appropriations bill, in order to steer away from any bias, I believe it's important to implement internal benchmarks. Internal benchmarks will allow us to train our appropriations interviewers going into the appropriation evaluations of different student groups and organizations. Having that benchmark allows for standardization and fair evaluation of all the student organizations and clubs coming in and making those requests. I believe that completing bias training is also a requirement, and as well as having the Treasurer Roundtable, where we're able to take Treasury officials and go talk to student groups on college-specific councils and have immediate feedback in conversations prior to the appropriations process will allow us to really understand our student body's concerns and needs and take that into consideration when it comes to the Appropriations Council and deliberations.
Pranav, you have 90 seconds.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the question. So I want to begin by clarifying that my platform will be guided by one core philosophy. Everyone will have an equal shot to the through the sources of funding that NC State Treasury has. And we will ensure that this happens through two different ways. One, transparency, and second, accountability. Beginning by transparency, I want to release monthly and semester-long reports from the Treasury that highlights exactly how deliberations occurred, exactly how the appropriations were distributed among student organizations, the evaluation criteria that we utilized to decide who gets how much, and finally, a series of personalized recommendations. I want to provide every club and organization with personalized recommendations and personalized feedback on exactly what they did right and exactly what they can improve next time as they go through the process. Second, accountability, and it's a two-way street. One, from us to them. These semester reports and monthly reports, and also the personalized feedback that we provide, will give them the reasons and the evaluation criteria that we use to then determine the amount of money that they received. We will be completely transparent and we will be accountable for that. We will also ensure that all transactions occur through our mobile app, which is another part of my platform. I want to bring in an app that allows them to easily report their receipts, put in.
Thank you, Pranav. We will now move to rebuttals. You must clearly state which single candidate you are addressing. Makia, you have 60 seconds. You may begin when ready.
Thank you. I'd like to address Pranav real quick. How do you go about creating this app and like making it an institutional thing within student government and getting outside orgs to do the same, like to use this app?
Thank you so much for that question. So the app right now provides an organized way for student organizations to upload their receipts, request for funding, and also receive personalized feedback. So student organizations will be given a login each to go on the app, upload the receipts to show proof of purchase, and then also complete steps on the app through which they can go through the allocation and the funding request process. And within the app itself, we will provide that personalized feedback back to each club and organization. And the data is going to be transparent. The data is going to be safe. It's going to be protected. And we're going to work collaboratively with other branches of student government to develop the app itself and ensure that we're providing every student organization the ability to easily access the app and also communicate with the student body treasury branch.
Alina, you have 60 seconds.
I'd like to address one of Pranav's initiatives regarding personalized feedback. We go over about 300 to 400 appropriation cycle. That's a large influx. How do you plan on personalized feedback to each student group? How do you plan on standardizing that feedback as well?
Of course. So the core strength of the Treasury branch is that we have a team. It's not a one-man job. It's not a one-man team. And we have a team of committed Treasury officials that can work together to deliver this feedback. And to go back to your question, how exactly are we going to go through so many different organizations? I believe it's necessary. We have a 10% ineligibility rate. That means 10% of clubs and organizations can't get the funding that they need to make the impact. And we need to fix this. We need to give them personalized guidance that basically consists of what they did right, how they can improve, and areas of opportunity for them to better showcase their impact. And by doing this, even though it might take time, it'll cut in that 10%.
Thank you, Pranav. The time has come for a question from me, correct? Okay, my question is, there's a lot of material in here in the script about transparency. Okay, so tell me about it. What's the issue here? What's the issue with transparency? Makia, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you so much. So in terms of transparency, my platform is built off of 5 pillars with the acronym TRUST. And the first one is transparency. So creating a treasury that is open to review, right? So all students can see where their money is going towards. And also holding us accountable with this form of transparency, right? Making sure that we are spending this money ethically and making sure that student orgs are actually reaping the benefits of this. I think also in terms of transparency, it's also important to note important communication as well, right? Make sure we're communicating our standards and our requirements to use funding from SG, right? And I think respectfully, that's where we fell short this session was communication. And I hope to better improve that.
Thank you, Makia. We will now move to our second core question.
Thank you, Dr. Funkhauser. Our second core question is in regards to student government spending. According to the Student Fee Transparency and Accountability Report, approximately 71% of student government spending, roughly $250,000, supports student organizations, while tens of thousands of dollars go toward internal branch expenditures and stipends. Student government is widely viewed by some students as ineffective or disconnected from everyday student concerns. Here's the question. What specific transparency reform would you implement in your first semester to restore confidence in how student fees are spent? Alina, you have 90 seconds. You may begin when ready.
In terms of transparency and enforcing it within my first semester, I plan on being able to implement the Treasurer's Roundtable, which is an initiative where we're able to gain feedback from our student organizations by going to different college councils and explain our processes of funding and appropriation cycles so they're able to understand the behind the scenes. I also believe that it is important to have town halls as well as tabling events where we're able to draw in student input and have those conversations and open dialogue with our student body. I also believe it's important to publish a report of all the SG expenditures as well as line items, internal funding, as well as how we're distributing the appropriations. Being able to maintain that level of transparency with the student bodies, they deserve to know where their fees go. Being able to address each one of those line items, provide an explanation, will help advocate for transparency internally and then make and bridge that communication between the student body and the Treasury branch.
Pranav, you have 90 seconds. The question is, what specific transparency reform would you implement in your first semester to restore confidence in how student fees are spent?
Okay, thank you so much for that question and the reiteration. Transparency is key, and transparency needs to be a two-way street. First of all, from us to the clubs, once again, the semester-long and the monthly reports that we're going to publish with personalized feedback on every single club and exactly what they did wrong and what they did right throughout the process, but also transparency on our side, exactly how we split up the money that we have, the source of internal funding, where the appropriations were divided, and also the evaluation criteria, how we decided how to allocate those funds. So exactly the evaluation criteria that we used to allocate those funds. We want to communicate that with the students and be completely transparent, but also from the students to us. Michaela, brought up a great point, which is we want to make sure student organizations are reaping the benefits. How do we know that after they receive the funds that they get, how do we know that they're making the impact that they promised to make? I will require, and will work with other branches of the student government to do this, but I will require clubs and student organizations to provide us with an impact report where they will detail exactly how they use the funds and exactly what difference it made on NC State. These impact reports will help us decide exactly in the next cycle whether or not to continue giving them funding or increasing their funding. It'll help us factor that in along with other factors, but also additionally, we can use this as an opportunity to incentivize student organizations. I want to create a most impactful student organization award where the student organization that utilized the funds that we provided the best will receive recognition from the Treasury branch and will be celebrated since they're using the money wisely.
Makia, you have 90 seconds.
Thank you. So in terms of reform, I would implement my first semester, the one being kind of not trying to go off my fellow candidates, but having a treasury that is open to review, right? Hosting weekly office hours so people know that they're welcomed in the suite. They're welcome to come ask a question. Also with when it comes to these interviews and when it comes to these deliberations, also streamlining a better process so it's not redundant. A lot of these organizations on campus usually go to department councils, for example, for funding. So trying to eliminate that redundancy when it comes to having to do our appropriations process in another person. And as your student body treasurer, I'd ensure that.
Thank you, Makia. We will now move to rebuttals. Reminder, you must clearly state which single candidate you are addressing. Alina, you have 60 seconds. You may begin when ready.
All right, so I'd like to address one of Pranav's initiatives on the impact reports, as well as creating an award for the student organization with the most impact. I believe that in our current evaluations for finance committee grants, as well as appropriations, we do have questions that gauge the student impact and involvement of these campuses or student organizations on campus. What is your approach to having an impact report is that another piece of paperwork that the student organizations are required to submit, because they're already dealing with a high influx of paperwork, a high influx of managing budgets, as well as creating bank accounts. So what is kind of your approach to helping student organizations manage that?
Pranav, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you so much for that question. And I want to answer that with the story of mine. I participated in the appropriations process myself this time. And during one of the interviews, I won't disclose who, but I had the opportunity to interview one of the most impactful clubs that I've come across at NC State that provide a great home for a certain minority. However, the problem was when I asked them that question, how do you make your impact? What is your impact on campus? They couldn't answer it. They flustered on the spot. And just because of that, I couldn't give them the funding that they need to thrive, to make an impact. Instead of just putting them on the spot, putting that pressure on them to answer on the moment, by giving them the opportunity to put down on a piece of paper, highlight exactly what they've done, take us through the details, talk to us, and have some time to develop the report as well. Even though it's an additional piece of paperwork, it's an additional piece of paperwork that will give them the freedom and the power to communicate their mission appropriately to us, so that we don't just go off of what they say in those 10 seconds, but we go off the realistic impact that they're making for our students.
Makia, you have 60 seconds.
So this is gonna be Pranav. Sorry to keep going at you, man. So in terms of this impact report, are you aware that at deliberations, we actively do talk about these orgs, and we don't necessarily just shut an org down because they're not able to tell us what they're able to do? So are you aware of that? Did you attend deliberations?
Thank you, Makia. So now it is time for another moderator follow-up question. My question is for Alina. So Alina, when you mentioned your roundtable events and different opportunities for students to come talk to you all, who do you envision coming to the roundtable events? Who is there to answer questions? And what sort of questions are you available to answer?
Yeah. So,
Alina, you have 60 seconds. Sorry.
So sorry. Well, I believe that the Treasurer's Roundtable Initiative, as well as Treasury on Wheels, it kind of focuses more on us going to the student body. This past cycle, we saw that we had to reject a large, 10% of student organizations just due to the fact that they weren't able to attend a budget information session, right? So obviously, even though we are offering 12 available slots and time slots for them to come to us, that isn't effective. So I see the need for us to go to them. So that's kind of the goal of the Treasury Roundtables, as well as having Treasury on Wheels. I believe that we'll be able to answer questions when it comes to how the budget tool works, when it comes to different ways to seek funding if their appropriations request isn't initially approved.
Thank you, Alina. We will now move to our final core question.
Before we begin our final core question, I wanted to provide an important clarification regarding rebuttals. Rebuttals are not intended to ask your fellow candidates another question. It's simply to rebut something they said during their debate speech. So just simply for time's sake, we can't ask each other questions. And I'll now give it back to Dr. Edwards.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Joseph. Students at NC State are facing rising tuition, housing costs, and food insecurity. The student body treasurer oversees how student fees are allocated and serves as a voting member of the University Fees Committee. Here is the question. If you were required to make a concrete financial decision to improve affordability, whether that means reallocating funds, cutting internal expenditures, or opposing a fee increase, what specific action would you take in your first year? Pranav, you have 90 seconds. You may begin when ready.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yep, absolutely. If you are required to make a concrete financial decision to improve affordability, whether that means reallocating funds, cutting internal expenditures, or opposing a fee increase, what specific action would you take in your first year?
Of course. Thank you so much for that reiteration. So I would like to clarify that whatever actions I take will balance the needs of the students at NC State while also balancing the realistic approach of the student government itself, which is North Carolina student government, understanding that we have a limited budget and we have to work with that. So that is exactly why I want to tackle one of the biggest issues within our budget. We have a limited source of internal funding, whether that's 250, whether that's 200,000. We don't have internal funding, but what we do have is our location. We're in the middle of the greatest innovation hub in the country, if not the greatest, one of the greatest. Why don't we provide our student organizations a secure connection to donors, alumni at NC State, and also companies in the field, and give them the opportunity to connect with them, to network with them, and also contact them and ask for funding. I want to set up external sources of funding that are not just, that are limitless, that don't have that cap and don't require us as student government to make tough decisions. And by supporting these organizations, whether that's creating a database of contacts they can reach out to, whether that's creating and hosting networking sessions where they can meet industry leaders and alumni and communicate their mission, whatever it is, if we can build that secure connection and if we can help them get external sources of funding, organizations that already have demonstrated impact at NC State will have the ability to tap into that, freeing up much needed breathing space for newer organizations that can take advantage of the larger portion of the budget itself, the internal source of funding, and keep growing, keep evaluating their impact until they have the ability to showcase impact and move on to the next stage, which is these external sources of funding. So let's give the big fish a reason to go out into the big into the big pond. Give a big fish a reason to go out into the big pond. Give them a gateway.
Makia, you have 90 seconds.
Like I've been saying throughout my campaign, our biggest thing is our voices. And I think that that's such an important tool when it comes to advocating on the behalf of students, try to improve affordability, right? The cost of living is rising and it's not easy being a student org on campus. So I think our best to keep speaking, creating those relationships with our chief financial officer, and kind of, yeah. Yeah.
Alina, you have 90 seconds.
All right. So this past session, and currently, I'm serving as chair of tuition and fees. So I've been on the fee review council and committee, serving with the university administration this past fall. So when it comes to approving affordability, there were 5 fee increases proposed to us this past fall. And I'm sure there's going to be fee increases that are proposed once again next fall semester. So when it comes to protecting student affordability, when it comes to seeking out higher education, I wouldn't hesitate to turn down a fee proposal increase when necessary and if the student body advocates and displays their concerns to me. I know that I'll be able to gauge their opinions and their concerns through town halls, and in the event that they aren't in favor of a fee increase, I would not hesitate to vote no on the fee review committee and advocate for their concerns and their needs to administration.
Thank you. We will now move to rebuttals. Reminder, you must clearly state which single candidate you are addressing. Pranav, you have 60 seconds. You may begin when ready.
Yeah, of course. So rebuttals isn't I just like oppose a point?
In response to what one of them said.
Oh, okay. I have no rebuttals. Thank you.
Okay. Makia, you have 60 seconds.
Yes, my rebuttals to Pranav, limitless funding. I fear that might not be a possible thing at this university, but I don't know. I don't agree with that, but I don't agree with that.
Sure. So when I said,
Wait.
oh, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, it's just an address to each candidate, no responses.
Alina, you have 60 seconds.
I don't have a rebuttal either.
Thank you, Alina. This is the time for the moderator follow-up question, which I'm asking to Pranav. So my question is, and I noticed you talked about external funding, and I noticed in your platform summary that I received too, you talked about student-developed entrepreneurial initiatives. So I'm assuming, is your idea that these student initiatives or entrepreneurial initiatives would then go out to these external funders? How are you going to work getting external funding and then tying it to student-led initiatives?
Of course. So I know there's a lot of miscommunication there and confusion. I want to clarify. So when I say external funding, I mean donors in the greater RTP area. I mean alumni of NC State. I mean CEOs of tech companies. I'm hosting a competition named Hackworks tomorrow, which is for over 100 competitors for business and engineering students. And we'll be bringing in donors that include CEOs of tech companies and judges that will be there to talk about, to network with these students and exactly figure out what opportunities might best benefit them. As student body treasurer, I will bring this to a new scale. When I say connect them to external sources of funding, I mean, let's say you're an organization on campus that's been doing great and that's been helping a lot of people from, say, a certain minority, gain additional opportunities in their field. What we can do is connect them to, say, a nonprofit organization in the area that does the same, that aligns with their interests, and can help them either receive sources of funding or sources of resources that they can take to grow. This reduces the dependency that they have on us as student body treasury.
Thank you, Pranav. We will now move to the lightning round.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. During this portion of the debate, each candidate will have 20 seconds to respond to each prompt. There will be no rebuttals and no follow-up questions. When time expires, microphones will be muted immediately. Candidates will not be permitted to finish their sentence. Responses should be concise and direct. For any question regarding a yes or no answer, you must clearly state yes or no before offering any brief explanation. Let us begin. Prompt 1. Student organizations must fund at least half of their own event costs. Student government may only match up to 50%. Should the 50% funding cap be eliminated? Makia, you may begin.
You got me with that one. I do not think the 50% should be eliminated just because we're not trying to give them full funding. We're trying to help them learn financial wellness.
Thank you, Makia. Alina, you may begin.
I agree with Makia's statement. No, I wouldn't approve of disbanding the 50% threshold just because I believe that they should be able to help sustain themselves, and by seeking out different ways of fundraising, they're able to do so long term.
Thank you, Alina. Pranav, you may begin.
No, at the end of the day, we are a helping hand. We are not their full source of funding. We want these organizations to learn how to be independent, but also give them that necessary push that they can have to then form their impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranav. Prompt 2. Under the student body statutes, the treasurer may extend deadlines for receipt submission or the return of unspent funds. Should that discretionary authority be removed entirely? Alina, you may begin.
No, I do not believe so. I think I have always said it's important to give other people grace, give others grace. Having that grace period for them to return those unspent funds and receipts allow them to still pursue financial funding and wellness.
Thank you, Alina. Pranav, you may begin.
Yes, as long as they have demonstrated initiatives that they've taken or that they've provided proof that they are putting in active effort to either provide those receipts or provide any other additional information. I also want to stress that with the app itself, all receipts can be uploaded electronically and we will store it for them instead of them worrying about losing a receipt or two. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranav. Makia, you may begin.
I think it's important to remember that at the end of the day, we're all students, we're all human, and we're going to make mistakes and forget deadlines. So it's important that we extend grace.
Thank you, Makia. Prompt 3. Should organizations that generate large amounts of revenue be deprioritized for funding? Pranav, you may begin.
Sorry, could you repeat that again, please?
Yeah. Should organizations that generate large amounts of revenue be deprioritized for funding?
Look, as I said before, everyone puts in money when they pay for NC State, and everyone deserves an equal shot to funding as well. However, while I do not think that we should remove them or eliminate them from the funding process itself, we should encourage them to take on either those external sources of funding or encourage them to leave the limited internal funding that we have ourselves.
Thank you, Pranav. Makia, you may begin.
I do not think we should do that. At the end of the day, they're coming to us for some help, and I think we owe it to them to help them. They're paying into it. Again, $14.20 is what you're paying into student government.
Thank you, Makia. Alina, you may begin.
I do not believe so. I believe that we also assess that in our evaluation as an appropriations council. We do have a requirement and criteria that looks into their needs. So we're still able to fund them regardless of their large revenues.
Thank you, Alina. Prompt 4. If a large politically influential organization fails to return unspent funds, would you enforce the 2-cycle penalty even if it causes campus backlash? Makia, you may begin.
Yes, I would enforce the policy. I think if we're going to do it for one, we have to do it for all, if that makes sense, and make sure that we're following our statutes and our rules to keep balance and order.
Thank you, Makia. Alina, you may begin.
Yes, I would. I believe that it's important to have a level of standardization within the Treasury branch. Having a uniform principle set across all student organizations allow us to maintain that fairness and equality.
Thank you, Alina. Pranav, you may begin.
Yes, we need to be fair to everyone. We need to treat everyone equally. However, we do not want students to be dissatisfied. And again, we want to be transparent. So I'll also do my best to communicate exactly what happened to those students and also offer in-person sessions, online sessions where they can drop in and speak to us in case they need further clarification. So yes, but also make sure to communicate to them.
Prompt 5. Should internal branch expenditures be capped at a fixed percentage of the total budget, even if that limits initiatives? Alina, you may begin.
I believe that it is important to evaluate our internal expenditures. So yes, I believe that there should be a set percentage that we can carry over to other sessions so that we can ensure that each year we're allocating the same portion of money to each branch to pursue their initiative.
Thank you, Alina. Pranav, you may begin.
One more time, please.
Okay. Should internal branch expenditures be capped at a fixed percentage of the total budget, even if that limits initiatives?
Well, it really depends. We'd have to assess the case, but I would also like to prioritize that our funding goes out to organizations that need it the most. That was the original priority. But again, it's case by case. And regardless of what decision we take, I'll make sure to communicate that responsibly and properly to the students so they understand exactly what's happening, again, in those monthly and semester-long reports that will go out.
Thank you, Pranav. Makia, you may begin.
I do think there should be a set percentage because with some of these internal initiatives and events that we try to put on, we are using student funds. So it is important that when we use this money, that we're using it responsibly and that students know where it's going.
Thank you, Makia. Prompt 6. Should stipends for student government officials be reduced? Pranav, you may begin.
So of course, as someone that's looking to be an official, I'm obviously going to tend towards saying, no, I'm going to have a bias, but yes, it should be reduced because the goal as a student body or government official is not to make money. It's not to make an income, but it's to hear the voices of the students and it's to fund impact. It's to do your job, which is to take care of the needs of the NC State students.
Thank you, Pranav. Makia, you may begin.
Yeah, so in terms of reducing SBO stipends, I definitely depends on how much we're trying to reduce it by and how much we're trying to increase it by, right? I think some people sometimes fail to recognize that being an SBO, it is a lot of work. And I'm not saying that we deserve all the money in the world, right? And I'm a very biased person to be saying this, but I think it's important to evaluate and make sure that all work is appreciated.
Thank you, Makia. Alina, you may begin.
No, I don't believe that the student body officer stipends should be reduced. They haven't been increased in the past 8 years. We want to make sure that these positions are accessible to the entire student body. It is a large time commitment, so being able to compensate for that, I think, is appropriate.
Thank you, Alina. Thank you. Thank you, candidates. This concludes the lightning round for the student body treasurer debate. Dr. Funkhauser will moderate the closing statements.
We will move to closing statements for the student body treasurer debate. Each candidate will have 1 minute to deliver a closing statement. Time will be enforced strictly. When time expires, microphones will be muted immediately. Candidates will not be permitted to finish their sentence. Makia, you have 1 minute. You may begin when you are ready.
Once again, thank you all for being here. I assure you, as your student body treasurer, I'll make sure to better streamline the appropriation process to reduce redundancy, advocate on your behalf as a member of the university fees committee, and making sure that you know where your money is being spent, because it is not easy being a student org on campus, and it's not easy being a student, and sometimes life, and we just need help. So I implore all of you to get out there and vote. Even if you don't vote for me, vote for someone, because we see every day that right to vote is being threatened every single day.
Thank you, Makia. Alina, you have 1 minute.
Great. Thank you guys all for tuning in. It was so lovely to see you all tonight. I would like to echo that I'm committed to serving the student body and being your voice at the table through focusing on efficiency, modernization, financial empowerment, grassroots engagement, accountability and transparency, as well as student representation. I do believe that I'm here and ready and willing to be a friend who listens, a leader who acts. Listening gives us perspective and action gives us results, and you guys deserve both. Let's make student fees work for you, and let's get our ducks in a row together.
Pranav, you have 1 minute.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for this opportunity. I want to start off by saying that I'm extremely grateful for the stage, and I look forward to the rest of this election, and also stress that by educating the students of NC State on how to set themselves up for financial success, by empowering student organizations through both external and internal sources of funding and tools to procure those external sources of funding so that the dependency on us as Treasury reduces. And then also by equipping both students and organizations with tools ranging from the app itself, which will provide a most convenient way for organizations to track the process itself and to receive personalized feedback that they can use for the next cycle to improve their chances and to cut in that 10% in eligibility rate. We can do better as a campus to turn NC State from a college to an experience that sets up students for lifelong success. And we can do all of it without raising a single cent for our students. And we can do it by taking in their voices. So I encourage everyone to bank on Aki and bank on NC State. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranav, and thank you to our audience for your attention and professionalism during this segment.
Thank you to our candidates for student body treasurer, and thank you to our moderators for guiding that discussion as we got our ducks in a row. We appreciate the thoughtfulness and seriousness each candidate brought to the role of treasurer and the appropriations process. At this time, we will take a 10-minute intermission before beginning the student senate president debate. The time is 7:12 p.m. We will resume promptly at 7:22 p.m. Please use this time to step out if needed, but we ask that you remain respectful of the space and of the candidates. Please return promptly at 7:22 p.m. so that we may remain on schedule. All SBO candidates are to remain at the debate for the entirety of the debate, even if they've finished their segments. Again, we will resume at 7:22 p.m. Thank you.
Yeah, yes. Oh, it's right there. Sorry. Here it is.
Thank you. I can take it, actually.
Did you grab the other laptop that was up here?
Yeah, it's on the floor.
So what about like the literal other laptop?
Oh, it's down here.
Okay. I'm gonna
Yeah. I make it easy on you.
Yeah. How do you think? The follow-up. I like yours. It's very I'm gonna go run and use those.
I ran on a code, and I put it in. Or Zoom.
I'm just going to the bathroom and the women's room on here up here is closed. If I could get the SSP candidates to the front. Okay. I don't know who A is and who B is.
B is
Okay. Who's A?
B is next to
Okay,
you.
so Mordecai, you're closer to me.
I get the best seat in the house.
Wow. Should we remove the reserve signs
I'm
now
in
so
a-
people can just filter in? I don't know.
Oh, Joseph, my left so ready.
Lolith, you're good to take a seat where the paper and water is. I don't know. Do you think we should remove the signs or no?
Because a lot of candidates are up and about.
Yes, I know.
I get it.
Yeah, that wasn't. Okay.
You got it.
If everyone can please take their seats. All right, everyone, if you could please take your seats. We're now going to move into the debate for Student Senate President. Thank you again to our audience for remaining engaged and attentive this evening. The Student Senate President serves as the presiding officer of the Student Senate, calls all meetings of the Senate, appoints committee chairs, coordinates the legislative branch, and serves as co-chair of the University Fees Committee and a voting member of the University Tuition Committee. This role is central to the structure, tone, and effectiveness of the legislative branch. Before I pass the mic to our moderators, I'd like to give two important clarifications. A rebuttal is not a question and answer exchange. It is a 60-second statement responding directly to a specific claim made by one other candidate, clarifying disagreement or offering counter-argument without asking them a question or expecting a reply. Candidates are expected to use their full allotted time for each segment. This is your opportunity to articulate your position thoroughly. Ending significantly early leaves arguments underdeveloped and forfeits valuable speaking time. With that, I pass the mic to our moderators.
Thank you, Joseph. Good evening, candidates. Earlier, each candidate selected a number between 0 and 100. Those selections were used to determine the speaking order for this segment. As outlined, there will be two-minute opening statements, 3 core questions, 90 seconds per response, 60-second rebuttals, 1 directed 1-minute moderator follow-up per core question, except question 3, a lightning round with 4 to 6 questions, 20 seconds per response, and 1-minute closing statements. Time will be enforced strictly. When time expires, microphones will be muted immediately. Candidates will not be permitted to finish their sentence. Let us begin with opening statements. Lalith Nandula, you may begin. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. My name is Lalith Nandula, and I'm beyond excited to be running for your Student Senate President. This is my 3rd year in student government and my 2nd as rules chair. I've also held the position of vice chair of DIO and also been on the Justice Department. For the past 3 sessions, I've listened, observed, and took note of the way Senate and student government has been run, and one thing stands clear. Our culture and unity are falling through the cracks. From first-year senators to appointed treasury members, we all join student government to make a difference. And if student government's culture and internal struggles get in the way of giving people the chance to do that, we are not only failing our campus, but we're also failing ourselves. I strongly believe that by strengthening the connection we have within each other, that we can strengthen the connection we have with the rest of the campus. And that is what my platform is centered on. Thank you.
Thank you, Lalith. Mordecai Mengestab, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm glad everyone could join us here. I'm sure this is a lot more exciting than the Duke game. I'm Mordecai. I'm running to be your Senate president. And the reason why is because I feel like Senate isn't very effective right now. I'm actually going to take us back in time a little bit to one of my greatest inspirations in student government, Student Body President Kathy Sterling. We're frequently presented with this false dichotomy of whether or not student government should be doing action for students or whether we should be taking action on political issues. she didn't have to choose. She led protests against the Vietnam War and was still able to, lead students in their audit of their fees and where their money was going. This should be a model for how student government works. We have a lot of potential. We've created student legal services, the Wolf Line. We've done things in the past, and we can keep doing them in the future. And I'm proud, and I really hope that all of you elect me to keep doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mordecai. We will now move to our first core question.
Thank you, Dr. Funkhauser. The Student Senate is the largest branch of student government, with the greatest number of elected members and the broadest representation across colleges and constituencies. The culture, productivity, and credibility of this body are shaped directly by the Student Senate President. Our first core question concerns accountability and oversight within that structure. The Student Senate President appoints committee chairs and is responsible for coordinating the legislative branch. Committee chairs play a critical role in shaping legislation, managing committee work, and ensuring productivity. Here is the question. What measurable standards should be used to evaluate committee chair performance, and what steps should be taken before removal is considered? Lalith, you have 90 seconds. You may begin when ready.
I've been the Rules Committee Chair for the past 2 sessions now, and that question is very true, especially given the recent events during the session. And I feel like there's no one answer to that. When it comes to committee chairs, we're all just students, we're all individuals, and trying to see whether we've done right or wrong is a hard line to draw. Obviously, we have duties that we are charged to complete, and if we can complete those in a due time or are able to otherwise let the SSP know or let the pro temp know or other communicate our issues in a probably proper manner, it's only beneficial to us. If we can show committee chairs what they need to do and give them very clear instructions on what they need to accomplish in the time they need to accomplish it, we can hope that they will accomplish it. And if they are not able to, we'll have multiple conversations before that point gets to the point where they aren't able to finish what they need to do. So my hope is that we'll be able to grade them throughout these various conversations, and understanding what's going on in their lives as well as what's going on in Senate and what we have asked them must be balanced carefully to understand whether what we have asked of them is fair and whether we have to give them some more time or be more patient with the things that they're going through, or otherwise allocate the duties to another individual. Thank you.
Thank you, Lalith. Mordecai, you have 90 seconds.
I think leadership begins from the top down. There's no way a Senate president can expect their chairs to embody leadership if they can't do it themselves. I think the standards for them should be clear and fair. And I think that the Senate president should set similar standards for themselves. The Senate president should have a list of should be able to tell senators the tasks that they've completed, and they should be able to tell, even more importantly, students what they've done on their behalf. And I think that if this example is set, if the Senate president is able to create a bulletin board of the things they're doing for their constituents, and then their chairs are able to emulate their lead, to be able to have a transparent and public database of their workings of what they're doing to improve Senate. Obviously, they have their tasks that a lot of senators are familiar with, to run their committees, to send legislation back. But beyond that, for our student affairs chair to create activities that do actually affect students, for our DEI chair to work on behalf of students on issues related to DEI. All of our chairs have responsibilities and power that's given to them in their role. I think that it's the job of the Senate president to create an example for them to emulate, and then from that, if the Senate president can create that and can create those clear tasks, it should be extraordinarily simple to see when they're not doing it and when those conversations need to be had, and eventually when that change of personnel needs to be completed.
Thank you, Mordecai. We will now move to rebuttals. Lalith, you have 60 seconds. You may begin when ready.
My rebuttal is that, do you expect, sorry, can I have questions? No questions. My rebuttal is that having student Senate president be put on display and having their work be on a bulletin board might create unrealistic expectations in the eyes of senators and committee chairs. Given that Senate presidents usually have a plethora of extensive experience as well as a multitude of duties, and also have promised to provide for the campus as well, and through a multitude of initiatives. I believe that it might be difficult for students and also committee chairs to live up to that expectation without having to feel the pressure of their already given duties and tasks.
Thank you, Lalith. Mordecai, you have 60 seconds.
Yeah, I think that it's important for the Senate president to set an example. I'm not asking for students to, actually do the things that the Senate president, the leader of their branch, is elected to do. I'm just saying that example of top-down leadership allows for committee chairs and for the rest of the Senate to have a clear example of their goals. And I think that, these conversations are important, but the things that my opponent mentions are only the first step towards a more effective Senate. Conversations are great. And I think that the student first aspect of working in student government cannot be overemphasized. But at the same time, we're student leaders. And I think that developing our leadership is one of the things that we do in student government, and one of the things that we should aspire to do the most. Just because that leadership can take time isn't a reason not to do it. I think that the better we do, as leadership, the better the rest of the Senate can do, and the more that we can do for students.
Thank you, Mordecai. Now it's time for another moderator follow-up question. This one is for Lalith. Can you give an example where current standards to evaluate committee chairs fall short, and how your suggestions address this?
I believe they fall short in our statutes. I feel they fall short in our system. We don't exactly have a system in place where committee chairs fall short. There's not exactly a standards to which they are measured. And I feel like that is important to have at least some rudimentary example of what we expect from them in some sort of document or form. It doesn't have to be in statutes, but some sort of way for them to guide themselves will also help them understand the type of expectations we have for them, as well as the type of expectations they are not able to meet, and the reasons for why we might have to have a change of personnel.
Thank you, Lalith. We will now move to our next core question.
Thank you, Emily. Our second core question concerns meeting efficiency and floor management. The Student Senate President calls meetings and serves as presiding officer. Senate meetings have at times run long and struggled with focus. Here is the question. What specific procedural reforms would you implement to make Senate meetings shorter, more disciplined, and more productive? Mordecai, you have 90 seconds. You may begin when ready.
I think that the core of our problem, not only in Senate, but in student government as a whole, is education. I think that our first-year senators and our new senators are undereducated on their roles and how they're supposed to accomplish them. They're undereducated on what legislation means. They're undereducated on how to accomplish their goals. The primary method that we can improve the efficiency of Senate, of student government, of advocating for our constituents, is by making sure that from the moment they step in, all the way, through their time on the Senate floor, through their time in committee, that our senators are aware of how the process is supposed to be done, and more importantly, are aware of where they're supposed to step in. It doesn't mean, asking questions about stuff that should have been taught to them before and rehashing over the same procedural questions every time that we're in Senate. It means keeping our time in Senate for promoting the open discourse and conflict that our mission statement requires us to do, and then using the time outside of that to cultivate our new senators' education so that we actually have a priority whenever we're in session.
Thank you, Mordecai. Lalith, you have 90 seconds.
I completely agree with Mordecai. I do believe it comes down to education, but I believe there's two more factors that we have to take into account, which is culture, as well as how the entirety of SG is balanced. As it currently stands, there's a multitude of initiatives, procedures, and projects that are handled in Senate and the in the Treasury branch and in the executive branch. And while they might be separate, they could totally overlap and also have greater cross collaboration, which will allow us to be able to move through these initiatives, projects, and legislations faster, easier, and also will make those legislations more notable and for allowing people to get more educated before the legislations come to the Senate floor. While I imagine that educating every single senator and expecting them to come to every meeting is a hard expectation to have, there's definitely a way in which we can have every senator at least be informed on the type of legislation that will be coming to the meeting and be I guess, prepared to understand the impacts that legislation will have. We'll have a list of questions ready, or even be able to speed up processes in which they ask questions by maybe referencing committee meeting minutes, or otherwise reaching out to the sponsor beforehand and coming to the meeting much more prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Lalith. We will now move to rebuttals. Mordecai, you have 60 seconds. You may begin when ready.
Yeah, this is going to be a very kind rebuttal because I actually fully agree with my opponent. I think that cross-branch collaboration has been something that we've been working to improve this entire session, and it's something that we should keep working on. I've worked with the executive branch on a variety of initiatives. The work with the Keep the Promise Act, where I was helping veterans students keep their scholarship, was done through conversations with our executive branch, our VP, and our director of government affairs. I've worked with our directors of sustainability, equity and accessibility, campus services, and specifically the sexual assault prevention division. I think that the best work that student government does is when we all know what we're doing and when we can connect with the people who are best at doing those jobs. Our directors are chosen for a reason. I think that connecting our committee chairs to their respective directors is a great way to improve the efficacy of Senate. And I think that making sure our first year senators and new senators know who their resources are, who the experts are, and where they can reach out to them is the best way to make sure that they know what's going on and how to make Senate go faster.
Thank you, Mordecai. Lalith, you have 60 seconds.
I'll also have a pretty short rebuttal. I completely agree with Mordecai on this. I also want to add that to accomplish all that, I really feel like culture is an important part of Senate. How we treat each other, how we see each other, how much we respect each other in and out of the chambers is very vital to the efficiency of how we get through legislations, or even how well we cross collaborate between branches. Thank you.
Now we have the moderator follow-up question to Mordecai. So Mordecai, I noticed in your last response to the first core question, and several people have mentioned the importance of transparency, and you had an initiative to respond to transparency. But my question is, why is transparency a focus for your campaign? And if it's something that's been missing in the Senate procedures now, how are you going to make a change that's different than what's going on now? Like, why is transparency so important, and why are you focused on addressing that?
That's a great question. I think that in student government, one thing that we forget is that it's just as important to make students feel represented as it is to make sure that they are represented. Despite the work that we do, if students can't see it, then our purpose has not been fulfilled. The point of student government is to make it so that students know that their voices are heard at the highest levels with admin, that their voices are heard beyond that. The issues that we face don't just come from the administration. They come from the Board of Governors. They come from the state legislature. They come from the White House. If students don't feel represented, that we are fighting for them at every level, then we're failing in our duties. Beyond that, I think that transparency is important because students should be able to go online and find out what their senator believes and has done in Senate. That's why I passed the Senate Transparency and Safety Act, because I believe that, Senate works best when we're held accountable for our actions. So yeah, to summarize, I think that it's important to have this transparency so students feel represented and so that they can keep us accountable.
Thank you, Mordecai. We will now move to our final core question.
The student Senate president represents students alongside the student body president at monthly meetings with the chancellor and serves on the university council, an advisory body composed of vice chancellors, vice provosts, deans, and members of the three university senates. These are rooms where institutional decisions are shaped before they are publicly visible. So here is the question. If you face resistance from senior administration on a student-supported initiative, how will you advocate forcefully for students while maintaining credibility and professionalism within those spaces? Lalith, you have 90 seconds, and you may begin when ready.
I believe navigating that has to do complete with balance. Balancing what the administrators expect of us and want of us and are able to do, as well as what the students expect of us, want to see, and what we are able to accomplish for them. While it might be difficult to push back against administrators, I definitely feel that there is a compromise somewhere depending on the circumstance at hand. While we might not always be able to find it, at least attempting to and discussing why these administrators or higher officials feel as though what we are trying to achieve is not possible will at least give us something to share with the students as to why we weren't able to be successful and bring them what they wanted to see. While that doesn't end the story there, I also want to encourage students to continue to suggest different ways to which we can achieve the goal that they previously wanted to see. While the administrators might still resist, there isn't only one way to get things done. Keep continuing to try and pushing on different ways to like pass legislation or push agendas or even make initiatives happen is the only way we will progress in student government. Thank you.
Mordecai, you have 90 seconds.
This is a great question. This answer is going to go a couple places, but to start off, I'm going to bring us back to Kathy Sterling. During her time, she would argue with Chancellor Caldwell, the chancellor at the time, constantly. She would, yell at him about issues, and then later, she assumed that he hated her. It turned out that she was one of his favorite students and one of his favorite university leaders. This is because of the fact that whether she was working with administration or fighting against administration, she was always fighting for the students. And I think that that's the most important goal that we have, to keep our North Star of fighting for the students. Administration generally, I believe, does want the best for students. I think that there's a lot of roadblocks that keep that from happening. As I've said before, whether it's at the UNC system level or beyond, I think that there are a lot of things that are affecting students today. And there are things that university administration just can't budge on. Regardless of that, that's not my job to worry about. It's my job to fight for students one way or another. If it means creative leadership, if it means getting around those policies, if it means making sure that, students are aware of those policies and why they exist, no matter what, it means putting students first. And by doing that, I believe that regardless of how those conversations with the administration go, I think that we can still fight for students no matter what.
Thank you, Mordecai. We will now move to rebuttals. Lalith, you have 60 seconds, and you may begin when ready.
I wholeheartedly agree that fighting for students should be our main priority. And while I'll make that my main priority, I also want to ensure that relationships with administrators and officials higher up in student government in NC State are well kept and are polished and maintained. The level of respect needs to be set, and that tone has to be there too. While I would love to argue and push back, it has to be done respectively. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Lalith. Mordecai, you have 60 seconds.
I agree with my opponent. I think that respect is a core value that both sides of an argument need to have in order for any progress to be made. However, respect doesn't mean rolling over. It means making sure that you know where both of you stand. I think that there needs to be a mutual level of understanding from the SSP and admin that we are all fighting for students. Beyond that, I think that where we agree and disagree can go where it pleases. And I think that as long as that mutual understanding is held, that we can make progress in our conversations.
Thank you, Mordecai. We will now move to the lightning round.
Thank you, Dr. Funkhauser. During this portion of the debate, each candidate will have 20 seconds to respond to each prompt. There will be no rebuttals and no follow-up questions. When time expires, microphones will be muted immediately. Candidates will not be permitted to finish their sentence. Responses should be concise and direct. For any questions requiring a yes or no answer, you must clearly state yes or no before offering any brief explanation. Prompt 1. Should debate time limits be strictly enforced at every Senate meeting? Lalith, you may begin.
This is something we have discussed in committee, and I think, yes, it'll help us be concise, be succinct, and also help us prevent rephrasing of material that has already been said.
Thank you, Lalith. Mordecai, you may begin.
Absolutely. We have procedural tools for extending debate when it needs to be. We have tools for allowing people to speak their mind. But regardless, these limits exist for a reason, and enforcing them is the job of the SSP and cannot be ignored.
Thank you, Mordecai. Prompt 2. Should committee chairs receive formal mid-semester evaluations? Mordecai, you may begin.
Yes, formal is a scary word, but these mid-semester evaluations don't need to be a completely thorough evaluation on the same level as the Senate president. I think that having an idea of where our committee chairs stand and how they're doing their jobs is important and can be done without conflict.
Thank you, Mordecai. Lalith, you may begin.
As opposed to formal mid-semester reviews, I would rather prefer slightly informal, more frequent reviews that might happen every other month or so.
Thank you, Lalith. Prompt 3. Should the Senate president take a more active role in shaping legislative priorities? Lalith, you may begin.
While I think it is important to take an active role, it should be purely done to direct and guide future senators and not to influence specific legislation to one side or another.
Thank you, Lalith. Mordecai, you may begin.
I think the Senate president should be facilitating interactions with students. They should be making it so that senators know where their constituents' priorities lie, and they should be making sure that senators have the necessary knowledge to know what they're doing, but they shouldn't be working with legislation directly.
Thank you, Mordecai. Prompt 4. Has the Student Senate operated effectively this year? Mordecai, you may begin.
We've had our ups and downs. I think we've had highlights. We've had things such as the Defend the PAC Act, the Say Their Names Act, the Keep the Promise Act. We've had a lot of times where we've helped students. We've had a lot of times where we haven't. I think on the whole, we are doing good work and we can do better.
Thank you, Mordecai. Lalith, you may begin.
I wholeheartedly agree. There's always room for improvement, and us going back and recognizing our faults will only help us get better at doing that.
Thank you, Lalith. Prompt 5. As co-chair of the University Fees Committee, would you oppose a student fee increase even if senior administration strongly supports it? Lalith, you may begin.
Yes, I would. We have seen in the past, especially given by debate from our graduate students, fees hurt. They hurt bad. And I'm here to represent the students. And as a student paying these fees, I know how bad they hurt. And I want to prevent any more pain from being shared on a financial aspect.
Thank you, Lalith. Mordecai, you may begin.
Absolutely. As I've said before, conflict is necessary and healthy. I've been elected as a senator to create that conflict with admin so that we can fight for students. As Senate president, I think that responsibility only grows, and the fee review committee is one of the biggest places to do that.
Thank you, Mordecai. Prompt 6. Working with ASG, the UNC Association of Student Governments, what is one specific issue you would prioritize at the state level? Mordecai, you may begin.
Voting. We've seen the issues at A&T and UNCG. Making our voice heard is a privilege and not a right, according to the Board of Elections. I think that we need to make sure that that inalienable right is kept right here on campus.
Thank you, Mordecai. Lalith, you may begin.
I think discussion of tuition and fees from university to university is an important conversation that'll help us gain perspective, as well as be able to bring back substantial evidences on whether and how we vote in committee or in Senate.
Thank you, Lalith. Thank you, candidates. This concludes the lightning round for the Student Senate President debate. We will now move to 1-minute closing statements. Emily will moderate the closing statements.
We will now move to closing statements for the Student Senate President debate. Each candidate will have 1 minute to deliver a closing statement. Time will be enforced strictly. When time expires, microphones will be muted immediately. Candidates will not be permitted to finish their sentence. Lalith, you have 1 minute. You may begin when ready.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure being able to answer your questions, and I hope you were able to get a better insight about what my platform is and how it plans to grow if elected SSP. I hope I can do my best to serve the role, and I hope that all my platform points are substantial and will help correct the wrongs that we have all seen in the past and also push Senate into a better and more prosperous future.
Thank you, Lalith. Mordecai, you have 1 minute.
Thank you guys for sticking here with us today. I really hope that we're beating Duke, but more importantly, I think that we've seen in the past what student government can do. We've seen student leaders lead protests against Vietnam. We've seen them lead protests against wars in the Middle East in the early 2000s. We've seen them also help students directly, the Wolf Line, Student Legal Services. We've seen the potential that Senate has, and I think that we can reinvigorate that potential. And I think that we can keep protecting students' rights. We can protect staff against undue recourse due to issues from the UNC system. We have the potential to do all of these things. We're choosing not to, and I think that we can go back in a better direction. And I think that we should begin.
Thank you, Mordecai. Thank you to our audience for your attention and professionalism during this segment.
Thank you to our candidates for Student Senate President, and thank you again to our moderators for guiding that discussion. We appreciate the seriousness and clarity brought to this race. At this time, we will take another 10-minute intermission before beginning the Student Body President and Vice President debate. The time is 7:51. We will resume promptly at 8:01. Please use this time to step out as needed, and please return promptly at 8:01. Thank you, Mordecai. Thank you. I'm gonna tell them to not worry about talking about the muting the mic because I can't do
I
it.
thought it muted everyone.
Yeah, I did too. That's so goofy.
Yeah, that one overrides. Do you need more water?
I have my big water bottle.
You might want to have the.
If I could have the student body president and vice president candidates come to the front to take their seats.
A, B, B, C, C. Do you have like a.
Yeah.
You know, presidents or what?
Presidents will be left seat, my right. So, who's candidate A? So Knox, Hubbard, Taquan, Ava, Zach, Alex. So Zach, you're here. Hubbard, you're here. Wait, no, I lied.
Because I
You're first. Ava is here. It's, yes, you're here. You're C. Yep.
Yeah, we have another.
Wow.
I'm gonna need 2 waters, that's for sure. I get so dry whenever I speak.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It was my 1 week whenever I did beer in high school.
Yeah.
And you guys are free to start writing. Yes, sorry. I anticipate it to take the whole hour. All right, if everyone will go ahead and take their seats, we're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. All right, we'll now move into the debate for the student body president and student body vice president. This is the chief executive ticket of the student body. The student body president serves as the chief executive officer of the student body, a voting member of the board of trustees, co-chair of the university tuition committee, and a voting member of the university fees committee. The student body vice president serves as an internal coordinator of the executive branch, presides over the executive cabinet, and ensures that executive departments are structured, aligned, and productive. These roles carry fiduciary, managerial, and institutional responsibility. Please use your full allotted time for each segment. Again, this is your opportunity to articulate your position thoroughly. With that, I will pass the mic to our moderators.
Thank you, Joseph. Good evening, candidates. Earlier, each ticket selected a number between 0 and 100. Those selections were used to determine the speaking order for this segment. As outlined, 2-minute opening statements, 1 per ticket, 4 core questions, 90 seconds per response, 1 directed 1-minute moderator follow-up on core questions 1, 2, and 3, rebuttals on core questions 2, 3, and 4, A lightning round with 4 to 6 questions, 20 seconds per response, and 1 minute closing statements per ticket. 1 per ticket. During rebuttals, you must clearly state which single ticket you are addressing. You may address only 1 ticket. If you attempt to address more than 1 ticket, you may be interrupted. Directed specifically to either the student body president candidate or student body vice president candidate. For each core question and lightning prompt, it is the responsibility of each ticket to determine which member will respond. That decision must be made before the ticket is recognized to speak. When your ticket is called, you must immediately indicate which candidate will answer, and that candidate should begin without delay. There should be hesitation or on-stage consultation once recognized. Time will be enforced strictly. Candidates will not be permitted to finish their sentence if they go over. Now, let us begin with opening statements. Knox, Trask, and Hubbard Stack, you may begin. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Knox Trask. I'm majoring in ag business from Wilmington, North Carolina, and I'm deeply looking forward to the opportunity to lead the pack. I serve as a senator right now in student government, representing the Cowles College, and also serve as leadership member of fraternity on campus. And I love getting involved in my major. I love being involved on campus and getting back to a place that's given me an awesome home, plenty of lifetime friends, and I look forward to leading the pack.
Hey y'all, I'm Hubbard Stack. I'm a fashion and textile management major. In high school, I was a multi-sport athlete, involved in many clubs and involved in student government. So I grew up understanding time management, multitasking, and my responsibility to my obligations. Here, I am a first-year senator, and I'm also a member of the Department of Athletics. I am a student ambassador for the North Carolina Textile Foundation, and I hold a leadership position in my sorority Sigma Kappa. I grew up a Wolfpacker, born and bred, born like and raised by Wolfpackers as well. So I've always understood the responsibility to this place that feels like a home. So I'm excited for the opportunity to please serve y'all.
Thank you, Knox and Hubbard. Taekwon Dewberry and Ava Butler, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Taekwon Dewberry. I'm a junior majoring in philosophy and applied education studies. And to be honest, I'm running for student body president alongside Ava Butler because our students need a student government that boldly prioritizes solutions that they need to their problems and addresses our toughest challenges head on. Like so many of you, I've seen times when the university can be too hard to navigate, like when our own funding processes in student government are too hard for students to understand, or when students can't find the resources to their greatest concerns, when it's our job to help them out the most. We're running to provide a solution to that. We're running to create a student government that is active, relevant, and effective in our students' everyday lives.
My name is Ava Butler. I am a first-year higher education administration master's student and a proud Wolfpack alumni getting my bachelor's degree in political science in 2025. I'm running because we need to return our student government to its core purpose, the students. As somebody who serves students in a variety of different positions, from housing to instructional support, and even now as an academic advisor in Poole College of Management, I speak to students every single day. And what students need from student government is for student government to do better. Students deserve a student government that is active, relevant, and effective, and make sure that all students are heard, no matter whether they're on main campus, Centennial campus, or even the College of Veterinary Medicine. We're running to make sure that all howls, no matter the size, are heard, no matter what.
Thank you, Taekwon and Ava. Zach Edinger and Alexander Rivas, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, Wolfpack. My name is Zach Edinger. I'm a junior studying political science and double minoring in Spanish and business administration. It's an honor to be here tonight speaking to all of you during this debate. I wish maybe I could be watching the game as well, but I'd rather be here. I've been with student government for the past 3 years. I was elected as a student senator my first year as a freshman, fall of 2023. I then served as the Board of Elections last year, and under my rule, in the fall election and the spring election, we had record-breaking turnout. And right now, I'm a student senator once again. During my time in student government, I've seen the weaknesses and strengths that we hold. I've seen where we can improve. And where we can improve serve as our 4 pillars of our campaign: advocacy, transparency, freedom of speech, and lastly, safety on campus. Tonight, you're going to hear every single part of our ticket. You're going to hear our platform. You're going to hear our 4 pillars. I want you to look and listen for these, because these are crucial. There's a reason why our slogan is simple. It's not a play on words. It's for the students. So look and listen. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Alexander Rivas. I'm a third year. I'm currently studying political science. I hope to be an immigration lawyer once I graduate and go to law school, right? Um, I want to reiterate what Zach said. The four pillars is what's important to us through this campaign: the transparency, advocacy, safety, and freedom of speech. I work for a nonprofit. For undocumented people, we help them, especially in this time. And I haven't served in student government before, but I bring experiences that I feel would benefit them all.
Thank you, Zach and Alexander. We will now move to our first core question.
Thank you, Emily. The student body president is responsible for enforcing and administering acts of the Senate, coordinating the executive branch, and representing the student voice to the administration and the Board of Trustees. Each campaign presents a platform with multiple initiatives. Historically, many executive agendas are only partially implemented. Here is the question. What is the single initiative you would prioritize in your first 100 days? And what are you prepared to deprioritize if institutional realities require it? Knox and Hubbard, you have 90 seconds. You may begin when ready.
So the biggest thing that we would like to prioritize is advising. We're both from smaller colleges, being ag and textile, so our advisors are extremely hands-on. And I have a brother in the Poole College of Management. He has great advising as well, but he doesn't get as much one-on-one time with his advisor as we do. Additionally, in the College of Textiles, we have lifelong access to EPAC. And for those that don't know what that is the Career Services Help Platform. So you can put in your interests and your qualifications, and you get direct access to jobs through the College of Textiles. We are the only college that has lifelong access to that until the day we die if we're alumni. And we would love to make sure that that is an initiative that we can get done for all colleges so that all students have equal opportunity in the job market after graduation. And Jeff Sakharoff is our director of career services at Wilson College, and he does an amazing job. So setting up a meeting with him right off the bat is something that we're planning on doing to talk to him about how to get that done for all of the other colleges as well.
Thank you, Knox and Hubbard. Taquan and Ava, you have 90 seconds.
First of all, thank you so much for the question. I think it's one of the key tenets of our campaign. We want to bring student government back to students. Over the past year and a half, or of the past few years, we've seen student interest in student government decline because, frankly, we're just not reaching out and doing enough for our students. In the first 100 days, Ava and I will prioritize our SGE Reconnection Project, which is taking ourselves and working with the other elected student body officers and the elected student senators to go back to our student organizations after we do have the jobs to ask them what they want to see from us, and to tell them what we can and can't do, to be transparent and provide an open line of communication that lasts not only through our administration, but continues for years to come. Because this campaign is about making sure that we set up student government for a strong, positive future that is directly relevant and directly connected to each of our students.
Thank you. Zach and Alexander, you have 90 seconds.
Thank you for the question. On day one of the Edinger Ribas administration, there will be an executive order put on my desk and signed into motion. It's going to be creating, while the name is not final, a department that's going to specifically carry out the initiative that we call the Odyssey Initiative. It's outlined in our platform. And this is relating to one of our pillars, that being advocacy. Right now, student government has the mindset of people need to come to us to advocate. We're going to reverse that. We want student government members to go to organizations, to clubs. Given organizations permissions, we're going to send members of our cabinet, of our departments, to them to directly hear what students want, to directly hear the club members and their needs and everything like that. So that is going to be our day one idea and executive order that we're going to sign into motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach and Alexander. So now is the opportunity for the moderator to ask a follow-up question, and I'm going to ask it to Knox and Hubbard. I noticed in your opening statement and in your, I have your platforms here as well. You mentioned both the importance of Greek life and athletic accessibility. And so I wanted to know, in your campaign, or if you were to become president and vice president leadership, what would you do? How would you lead to be able to be inclusive across these different kinds of organizations and speak to Greek life, athletic life, and then other students as well?
Certainly. So being in a leadership position for a fraternity, I've gotten to know the administration for IFC, Shelly, Jackie, all of them, and I deeply know them very well and form a great connection with them. And I plan to really work with them, IFC president and the sorority presidents, and really get to see what what can we do to actually help them? Because IFC is all Greek like just feels like it's just a separate branch away. And I really would like to go in and help them and see what can we do to like make their lives easier and better represented as a student organization. And knowing these connections with the administration of NC State, I feel like I can really make some change for them and provide that for them.
Thank you. Thank you, Knox and Hubbard. We will now move to the next core question.
Across the UNC system, recent controversies have involved allegations of closed session deliberations, transparency concerns, and tensions between trustees and senior administrators. While NC State is not implicated in those events, they raise broader questions about governance culture within the public universities. As a voting member of the Board of Trustees, you may at times be in rooms where discussions are politically sensitive or legally complex. So here is the question. If maintaining a smooth working relationship with senior administrators required you to soften, delay, or avoid public advocacy on a student priority, would you do so? Taekwon and Ava, you have 90 seconds and you may begin when ready.
First of all, again, thank you so much for that question. And this answer is clear for me. No, unequivocally, no. If it ever comes down to the administration or our students, my first answer is always, it's our students first. When we're elected, the job is student body president. You don't go around calling them the student trustee first, they're the student body president first. There's a reason that title comes first. And whenever we're approaching those difficult administrative conversations, we can work with our administration as long as we're working for our students. And so the idea is you communicate, you're open and honest about what's happening, but first and foremost, you always prioritize your relationship with the student body first, because at the end of the day, it's the students that elected you and it's the students that we serve.
Thank you, Taekwon and Ava. Zach and Alexander, you have 90 seconds.
Thank you for the question. And I would also have to say no on this matter. After all, we are elected by the students. The students are the ones paying tuition. The students are the one building that culture. The Board of Trustees decides on many things, sure. But at the end of the day, we need to represent the students. Kind of echoing what was said already, students are our main priority. And with the Odyssey Initiative, we are going to be going down on campus. We are going to be talking to students. We're going to ask, if there is a tuition increase or anything like that. We're going to specifically mention it and say, hey, do you know about this? What do you think about this? We're going to send out polls. We're going to do things like that, because at the end of the day, the students are the most important. And without the student body, there can be no student body president. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach and Alexander. Knox and Hubbard, you have 90 seconds.
Yeah, the answer to this is no. As student body president, you represent the students. You are their voice to the administration, and they need to hear what's going on in this conversation. So no, I don't think you don't hide that information from them. You come out straight and say, this is what happened. This is the next step. We can move it going forward to help you guys.
Thank you, Knox and Hubbard. We will now move to rebuttals. We have a reminder here that you must clearly state which single ticket you are addressing. Each ticket will have 45 seconds. Taekwon and Ava, you may begin.
We have no rebuttals for this question.
Thank you. Zach and Alexander, you may begin.
We also have no rebuttal for this question.
Thank you. Knox and Hubbard, you may begin.
We also have no rebuttal for this question.
Well, thank you. Time for my question now. And as a longtime professor of communication, this is about communication. Earlier this evening, in the script, there was a comment that for many students, they felt like the student government was ineffective or disconnected from them. First of all, do you think this is a problem? And if so, what steps are you going to take to correct it? If you think it's not a problem, tell us how good your communication is. And this question goes to Taekwon and Ava.
We believe that the lack of communication and the lack of interest in student government is a major problem. As somebody who went here for undergrad, I was totally disconnected from student government until I joined. And even as today, our graduate students, as well as our students in College of Veterinary Medicine, are disconnected and do not even know that student government exists for them. So in order to recreate this and reroute this problem, we would love to revitalize our SG Reconnections project and kind of make student government more active, relevant, and engaged through pop-up town halls that we included in our platform, as well as meetings to make sure that we are not just a face that happens during major university events, not just somebody who hands you your appropriations check, but somebody who you know and somebody who is a friend. And we want to make sure that that is something that is possible for every student, whether they be undergrad, doctoral, or master's.
Thank you, Taekwon and Ava. We'll now move to our third core question.
Our third core question concerns affordability and executive responsibility. Students at NC State are facing rising tuition, limited on-campus housing capacity, increasing off-campus rent, high meal plan costs, and growing student loan burdens. The student body president serves as a voting member of the Board of Trustees and co-chair of the University Tuition Committee. The student body vice president assists in executing the executive platform and coordinating institutional engagement. Here's the question. If you are faced with a proposal that increased student costs, whether through tuition, fees, housing, or mandatory meal plans, what specific line are you unwilling to cross? And what concrete action would you take if that line is crossed? You may not answer in generalities, identify the threshold and the action. Zach and Alexander, you have 90 seconds. You may begin when ready.
Thank you for the question. Going with a specific item we are not willing to cross, I feel like the most important thing we need to do here with these tuition ideas and costs and upticks is going to be asking the students. As stated earlier, advocacy is a key part of our platform. We're going to be boots on the ground, talking to students, sending out polls, doing things like that so that we can hear what students think about tuition and specifically if they know where their money's going and if there is a tuition increase, what is being increased. That's going to be the most important thing here. And to be quite honest, sure, a lot of it is going to be from my decision making. It's going to be me collecting responses and things like that. But at the end of the day, it is the students. Housing, food, dining plans, everything like that is crucial to the life of a student here. And I want to make sure that students are speaking up so that we know exactly what they want and what they're not willing to part with. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach and Alexander. Knox and Hubbard, you have 90 seconds.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to serve on the tuition and fees committee this year, and we had a lot of student fee increases come up in Senate. And we had to think carefully about that and really listen to student voices. There were a few that I think would have been beneficial to our student organizations, but they hurt our students more. And as student body president and student body vice president, it is our job to listen to what our student body is saying as a whole. So understanding that small tuition fees add up and hurt students is something that we're very conscious of. And we want to make sure that whatever increases are happening do not hurt our students. If something happens where all of our students are voicing concerns that it is too much money or too much of an increase, we're going to work with the Board of Trustees and University Admin to make sure that that problem is addressed. And either that is brought back down or not enacted, or something else is decreased so that we can make sure all students are able to get their education here at NC State, because education is a privilege that I think everyone should have. And I understand that money is a problem for many students at NC State, and we want to make sure that that is something that people don't have to struggle with.
Thank you, Knox and Hubbard. Taekwon and Ava, you have 90 seconds.
Our line is that no new student fee raises unless they're absolutely necessary and beneficial to our student body. As a graduate student senator this year, we heard during our tuition and fees meeting that graduate students cannot afford a raise in fees. The raise in fees sometimes even comes to 10% of what our stipend is given back to the university. When I heard this, I automatically shut down every fee as well as the graduate delegation because we heard what our students wanted and we listened. Whether my own personal opinions or whatever I may have thought was beneficial to the university did not matter, because it was for what was beneficial to our students and what our students wanted to see. And that's the line that we would never cross.
Thank you, Taekwon and Ava. We will now move to rebuttals. Reminder, you must clearly state which single ticket you are addressing. Each ticket will have 45 seconds. Zach and Alexander, you may begin.
We have no rebuttal. I think everyone said some pretty equal ideas.
Thank you. Knox and Hubbard, you may begin.
Yeah, same as like Zach said, no rebuttal. Agree with everybody said up here.
Thank you. Taekwon and Ava, you may begin.
Sounds like we all agree. Lower student fees, no rebuttal.
Thank you. Now it's time for a moderator follow-up question. When we're talking about affordability, as Ava brought up, graduate students often struggle with this. For example, I'm a PhD student. My stipend is $20,000. That is the income that I get for the entire year. Student fees are about $2,000 of that, so about 10%. But many graduate students are not involved with SGA and not coming to be part of these conversations. How do you plan to address graduate student concerns with affordability? Zach and Alexander, you have 60 seconds. Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you for the question. I think I'm very glad that you brought up the fact that a lot of graduate students are not. I'm trying to look around.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
I think it's a great point you brought up that GSA students are not really that involved in student government. As a matter of fact, whenever I was Board of Elections chair, the turnout, which was record breaking, was a little under 10% of our actual student body population here, which is about 40,000 students. And I think that's really sad. For that reason, the Odyssey Initiative is going to go out and it's going to grab students. We're going to hear their responses directly. And that's exactly what our key pillar is: advocacy. I know I've talked about it a lot, but it's true. We need more people to be involved. If only 10% of our population is electing who our student body president is, hopefully that will change this spring semester. But in the past, there has not been a lot of participation. And I really hope our initiative can change that so that more graduate students can be heard and their concerns can be voiced to the administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach and Alexander. We will now move to our final core question.
Before we move to our final core question, I'd just like to provide a point of information. One thing I'm seeing in this debate is that we're all appearing as the same candidate. My advice to you as we open to this fourth and final question is to differentiate yourselves. If voters cannot clearly articulate how your ticket is different from the others after your rebuttal, you did not use your time effectively. This is not necessarily the time to sound agreeable or diplomatic, and this is the moment to explain your approach, your priorities, and your governing philosophy. Also, when asked to be specific, please provide a specific action that you would take. And I will give the time back to Dr. Edwards.
Our fourth and final core question shifts outward, beyond student government itself. The student body president and vice president represent over 40,000 students. Many students feel disconnected from student government. Many do not attend meetings, do not follow legislation, and do not believe executive leadership meaningfully affects their daily lives. So here's the question. What is one major challenge students are facing on this campus right now? How do you know that it is a priority beyond your own circle? And what specific action would you take in your first year to address it? You must clearly identify the problem, explain your evidence, and outline a concrete step. So clearly identify the problem, explain your evidence, and outline a concrete step. Knox and Hubbard, you have 90 seconds. You may begin when ready.
Since starting this campaign, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, is this a new position you're running for? So that clearly tells you there's a lot of disconnect right there. And so one of the first things we want to do is we want to go out and send a Google form and tell everybody, what problem do you have? And I feel like a bit disconnect people have in the universities. They don't know everything and all the resources this place has to offer. There's plenty of resources out there, and I think people just don't really go out and look for them. They hope to just stumble across them. And I really want to bridge that gap for students and provide that resource for them and bring that opportunity for them. So that when they walk across that stage, that they walk away from this university knowing they did the most while they're here, and they feel the most ready and prepared to take on the world.
Thank you, Knox and Hubbard. Taekwon and Ava, you have 90 seconds.
I think it's a two-part response, realistically. It's affordability and then advocacy. First of all, affordability across campus is bad, and I know because as Vice President of Strategic and Social Innovation in the UNC Association of Student Governments, sorry, it's a long title, I know, I've worked on this issue not only at NC State, but addressing it for the over 250,000 students in our system all across the state. It's not just an NC State problem, it's a system problem. And I know that people at NC State are experiencing it because we've heard it from them. Every club and organization we visited has told us they have a problem with affordability. Prices are too high, and we continue to ask our students to pay for things halfway into the semester. What we want to do is make sure that we're providing resources to them throughout the year, which is why Ava and I want to prioritize launching the Student Futures Fund to make sure that students have a place that they can go to request additional funds for their needs and their expenses, and that they know that their student government is here to advocate for them. Additionally, I think part of our issue is the way we advertise what we do. A lot of students submit concerns to us, but they don't know that we are doing anything about it. We have a what to fix form on our website, but you don't know where that goes. It's a black box of mysteries, if I'm being honest. What we need to do is prioritize providing accessible solutions to everyone, making sure that when you submit your request, you know exactly where it's going, you know what student representative is talking to you and working on your concern, and you know where they're going in the administration to solve it. Because truthfully, our biggest problem isn't that we don't do the work, it's that we need to do better at doing the work and do better at advertising the work and do better in general for our student body.
Thank you, Taquan and Ava. Zach and Alexander, you have 90 seconds.
Thank you for the question. I think the biggest issue right now, apart from campus, is just that across these spaces, these safe spaces are being dismantled, right? You've had the Blackmail Initiative. You've had student media get cut with funding. They're going digital now. And I feel like we need to advocate for them. Coming back to our core belief, advocacy is the most important thing. We need these students to know what these groups do, that they exist. So if they want to join, they feel like there's community. We want them to, give us their issues. And I feel like in the future, with our administration, we want to advocate for everyone.
Thank you, Zach and Alexander. We will now move to rebuttals. Reminder, you must clearly state which single ticket you are addressing. Each ticket will have 45 seconds. Knox and Hubbard, you may begin.
We do not have any rebuttals.
Thank you. Taquan and Ava, you may begin.
Mr. Trask and Ms. Stack, when talking about how you would prioritize student interest and what you would fix, you mentioned students coming to you. A lot of times people don't even know that these things exist. So when you ask them to come to you, how can you expect them to know where these resources are at? With our campaign, we are planning on going back to the students. As we mentioned before with our Student Government Reconnection project, we are going back to these clubs and organizations that we're meeting with. We're hosting these town halls. We are being present. We are being outside. We are showing people who we are and how we are people and how we can help them. We're tangible. We're not out of reach. And we're not some sort of black box or figures that you see on Instagram or in Senate meetings.
Thank you. Zach and Alexander, you may begin.
I'm also addressing Mr. Trask's statement, specifically on the fact that, you're talking about how you're going to outreach to students is kind of similar to what Ms. Butler said, but it's the idea that you're talking about how you're going to reach out to students, you're going to do all that, you had people coming up to you already and speaking, but I'm not really sensing a plan or hearing anything like that. We talked a lot about the Odyssey Initiative and that we're going to reach out to them. Instead of them coming to us, we're coming to them. So what I ask you, or I guess I can't really ask questions, but, just try to outline that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the lightning round.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. During this portion of the debate, each candidate will have 20 seconds to respond to each prompt. There will be no rebuttals and no follow-up questions. When time expires, microphones will be muted immediately. Candidates will not be permitted to finish their sentence. Responses should be concise and direct. For any question requiring a yes or no answer, you must clearly state yes or no before offering any brief explanation. So let us begin. This is prompt number 1. Executive departments often struggle with measurable outcomes and continuity. Should executive departments be required to publish measurable performance metrics and progress reports each semester? Knox and Hubbard, you may begin.
I think they should. I think that's the best way for students to know what's going on and make sure that their student government, who they elected, is doing their job to the fullest.
Thank you, Knox and Hubbard. Taekwon and Ava, you may begin.
Yes, we also plan to set up long-term strategic visioning and platforming with our executive directors. And we also want to realize that directors are not just tools of the admin, but people with their own goals for the position. So setting these memorable directives and also measurable directives will be very relevant.
Thank you, Taekwon and Ava. Zach and Alexander, you may begin.
Yes. This is how students and other members of student government can see what the executive branch is up to and the measurable progresses we've made.
Thank you. Here's prompt number 2. The student body vice president does not have unilateral authority to remove cabinet members, but may advocate for leadership changes. If a department director consistently fails to meet expectations, would you publicly advocate for their removal? Taekwon and Ava, you may begin.
No, we would not publicly advocate for their removal, but instead establish a strong professional relationship in order for us to know whether or not, for us to have an open line of communication and understand why that director is failing in their position currently.
Thank you. Zach and Alexander, you may begin.
No, I believe if someone isn't living up to the measurable results you want, there should be a behind the scenes talk. Maybe they're going through something personal. Maybe it's, they're not comfortable with the job, and it needs to start there before you make it public and advocate for the removal. I think support is the best thing you can give someone.
Thank you. Knox and Hubbard, you may begin.
Before doing anything, we would understand the circumstance fully and get to know all of the information so that we can take action in a way necessary. But if extenuating circumstances do go on and someone is failing our students, then I think whatever actions need to be taken need to happen, need to be taken, and we can do the best for our students.
Thank you. Now for prompt number 3. Should the student body president take public positions on controversial political issues affecting students? Zach and Alexander, you may begin.
It really depends on the subject, I would say. But for me personally, I would say no. Some of these issues, the student body president should represent the entirety of the student body. If an individual is truly coming forth, or the body is coming forth with a lot of different, of the same consistent issue, then yes. But this is a nonpartisan position. And in my opinion, they should represent every student.
Thank you, Zach and Alexander. Knox and Hubbard, you may begin.
I'm going to say no, but it also depends on what it is. I think we serve NC State students, not necessarily the whole country of the United States. If it's impact on campus addresses, if it's impact address campus, then we aren't going to come out and say.
Thank you. Taekwon and Ava, you may begin.
Yes. If an issue is affecting our students, that's the key word. Yes, we should take a stance on that issue. At the end of the day, it's not about what I believe or what anyone else in the student body believes. It's about what matters most to our students. And that's what we're going to prioritize every day of the administration. I just want to clarify, student government is not nonpartisan. It is all partisan.
Thank you. Now for prompt number 4. As a voting member of the Board of Trustees, would you vote against the board majority if you believed student interest required it? Knox and Hubbard, you may begin.
Plain and simple, yes. You represent the students, not all the other powerful people. You represent the students. Students' minds go first. And you have to represent the students in that room. So if it means no, then no.
Thank you, Knox and Hubbard. Taekwon and Ava, you may begin.
Yes, and with no regrets. If you look at it, 2 of our strongest student body presidents in history are leading this university right now. Chair of the Board of Trustees, Stack, and Chancellor Howell both took strong stances against the administration when they were in office, and I plan to do the same as student body president.
Thank you. Now, Zach and Alexander.
Yes, I mean, it's important to follow what the students want. You're elected by them. As I said previously, student body is in the title of student body president. If you don't follow what they want and decide to go to the Board of Trustees, in my opinion, you're not fulfilling your role that you're elected to.
This brings up prompt number 5. The student body president has veto authority over student senate legislation. Would you veto legislation that is popular with students if you believed it was fiscally irresponsible or administratively unworkable? Knox and Hubbard, you may begin.
Yes, we would take the initiative to veto something if we thought it was irresponsible administratively and fiscally, because while the students might like it, it might not be in their best interest as a whole of the university. It's our job to do research and figure out what is going on and serve our students based off of all of that information that they might not all have done the research to figure out themselves.
Taekwon and Ava.
Nope. The job of the student body president is to faithfully execute the acts of the student senate. And as student body president, that is what I'm going to do. What I will prioritize instead of vetoing is working proactively with the sponsors of the legislation to go to admin and have those conversations and see for ourselves whether or not something is or isn't possible.
Thank you. Zach and Alexander.
Yes, but only on the condition that it is not feasible whatsoever. If a bill is popular and the students want it, but it's not feasible by administration, I will work with senators in the Senate, and we will make sure that we will make a piece of legislation that can work so that the students will be satisfied. After all, if that's what they wish, that's what we need to do.
Thank you. And so now prompt number 6. Would you publicly disagree with the chancellor if you believed a policy harmed students? Taekwon and Ava, you may begin.
Once again, my answer is going to be an unequivocal yes. If necessary, I would disagree with any member of administration in the benefit of our students, because once again, the job is student body president, not student administrator in training.
Thank you. Zach and Alexander.
I mean, yes, it's simple. We're not here to help represent Chancellor Howell. We're here to represent the people. And if the people don't, agree with it or it hurts, then yeah.
Knox and Hubbard.
The answer is yes to that. I mean, like I said, you are the voice of the students, and the students come first, and you have to represent them. And you don't have to necessarily agree with the chancellor and board of trustees. You're the students' voice.
Well, thank you, candidates. This concludes the lightning round for the student body president and vice president debate. We'll now move to 1-minute closing statements. And Dr. Edwards will moderate the closing statements.
Thank you, Dr. Funkhauser. Each ticket will have 1 minute to deliver a closing statement. Time will be enforced strictly. Microphones will be muted immediately at time. Knox and Hubbard, you may begin.
I grew up working on my family's farm, and when something's broke, you just don't sit there and talk about it. You go and fix it. And that's what I plan on doing. You need someone to talk to. We need to figure something out. We're going to do it. We're going to go out there and we're going to help you and make sure you get the best experience while you're here at college. And I will do anything that is possible to help you. And we're going to work on real results that mean something and directly impact each student while they're here. Trust staff, got your back.
Thank you. Taekwon and Ava, you may begin.
First of all, thank you all so much to everyone for coming out tonight. As we saw during the debate, Ava and I's top priority is bringing student government back to the students. If you ever want to remember how you can identify Dewberry Butler, you can remember it by the acronym ARE. We are active, we are relevant, we are effective, and most importantly, we are ready to be your next student body president and vice president and work with everyone in student government to bring student government back to our students and put it back in the hands of where it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you. Zach and Alexander, you may begin.
Tonight, you heard from 3 platforms. 3, well, similar platforms are also different. And now it's your time to choose. Do you want to choose candidates who will represent the student body or those that make empty promises sometimes? My question to you is, and while everyone did bring a good platform today, remember our 4 pillars: transparency, advocacy, safety, and freedom of speech. I recommend that all of you look at our platform and know that we will represent you. Our Odyssey initiative will go to you, the students. We will hear you directly. So please vote for Zach Edinger and Alexander Rivas. There's a reason why our slogan is for the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph, we return the program to you.
Thank you to all of our candidates for participating tonight. Campaigning is demanding, debating publicly is even more demanding. Serving in these roles, if elected, will be more demanding still. We appreciate your professionalism and your willingness to engage seriously with the responsibilities of executive leadership. And now, the most important part of tonight, voting will take place on Monday, March 9th and Tuesday, March 10th. You may vote online at go.ncsu.edu/votesg. You may also vote in person from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. both days in the Tally Student Union lobby in the Engineering Building 2 Breezeway. And finally, before we adjourn, I'd like to extend a sincere thanks to the individuals who made this evening possible. Dr. Edwards, Dr. Funkhauser, and Emily, thank you for your precision, preparation, and professionalism throughout all 3 segments this evening. To our timekeepers, thank you for keeping us exactly and ahead of schedule. To our press partners at the Nubian Message and the technician, we appreciate your work in informing the student body. And finally, to our audience, thank you for showing up, listening attentively, and for taking student governance seriously. Engagement is what gives this process meaning. This election belongs to the students. I encourage you to review the candidates, reflect on what you heard tonight, and most importantly, vote. On behalf of the Board of Elections, thank you for being here, and this concludes tonight's debate program. Have a good evening.
Good job, Alex.
SBO candidates, please stick around for post-debate conversations with our student media.